welcome everyone. This will be about unlocking data storytelling, a gaming industry essential. Uh, First of all, I have to present myself, to introduce myself. So I'm Anna, but you can call me Cacau. Cacau is the word in Portuguese for cocoa, and this has been my nickname since forever. So feel free to call me that way. Here's a photo, so you can see that there's no resemblance at all. But here in Brazil, it's pretty common, this nickname for people who have the same name as me. So before starting, a little bit about me. I am a consumer neuroscience specialist and woman in games ambassador. I'm currently working as a freelance researcher at Formbrain, which is the pioneer in neuromarketing in Brazil. And just briefly talking about my journey, my background comes actually from research instead of design or UX. So I first got in touch with consumer and market insights area at Nielsen IQ, and one of the biggest research companies. And then I further joined at Garena, which is a Singaporean game developer and publisher, where I deep dive into games user research. So, data storytelling, why should I know something about this? First things first, this is important because at some point we all have to deal with numbers. Maybe you're a producer having to share revenue results with your team, or perhaps a game developer making a pitch presentation to an investor. So professional from very different backgrounds can benefit by better knowing data storytelling. And you don't necessarily need to be a researcher to apply what we'll look into today. And yeah, what can actually go wrong by not addressing data visualization properly? I brought here some common consequences, so things that happen very often. So the first thing is communication breakdown. When visualization is unclear or is complex, the intended message may not be communicated very effectively. So this can lead to misunderstandings. And the thing is, understanding data is hard by itself, but explaining this to other people and making it clear for them is a way bigger challenge. So doing this translation, like from raw data into actionable insights, it's a really challenge. It's a challenge itself. And that's why we need communication to work effectively. The second problem is misleading conclusions. So by having these bad data visualizations, we can lead to a misinterpretation or incorrect conclusions, what can potentially result in misguided decisions, which is not the point of UX at all, or research as a whole. Then wasted time and resources. So ineffective presentations and ineffective data visualizations can put decision making in a limbo. Where you may need finish a meeting with people asking you many questions about the study, about methodology, about the data itself, and no real actions being taken. So it really sucks when people say like, you know what, I may need a little more time to absorb all that what we look into today. So this is not the ideal scenario. So what I would like us to do is actually go for the minimum effort of your audience. So what do I mean by that? Our goal is to minimize the cognitive effort that people may need to do to watch your presentation. So this comes from the fact that your presentations, they can be more impactful, they can be more effective with a very small tweaks. And for this reason, I gather some reference from my favorite books of this subject, and also a few things that I've experienced myself in the past few years. So the 4 books that I will be using here are Neurodesign, Storytelling with Data, Show Me the Numbers, and The Visual Display of Quantitative Information, basically. The authors will be written in the footnote, so don't worry, right over here. So here are 5 things that can actually help you. I will talk briefly about all of these 5 topics, but anyways, I put a bunch of examples so we can see a before and after exercise, so you can see how this works in real life, okay? So the first thing is colors and contrast. Colors can be used in very strategic forms. So using them as stimuli can actually make the elements more distinguishable, more attractive, and more memorable for your audience. You can play along with color palettes to transmit implicit information. Our brain actually likes to identify patterns, and it is visually stimulating when we look to image that it seems simple on the surface, but it has hidden patterns. We like this challenge. And an easy example of this is when we commonly use, for example, green for positive side of something, for the positive aspect of something, and red for the negative. Besides that, elements with good contrast level are recognized more easily, and we can also use that on our favor. The second thing is icons and creativity. Icons are actually our friends. So we can combine data with those visual assets to make the visualization easier. So if we use them like in the best way, they will make our presentation look childish or cheesy if that's what you worry about. Try to think outside the box whenever is possible, of course, but don't be afraid to be silly. We can actually make less boring to talk about numbers. And besides that, with all the creativity, we don't actually, we have to avoid the pitfall of adding unnecessary complexity to our graphs. So don't do that. Too many elements or meaningless effects, so things that we do without a purpose, they should be suppressed actually. So for example, like 3D graphics, they don't work very well and they might not help us. So these are kind of things that can actually pollute our slide instead of making it easier to understand. So for this reason, we have to think very strategically. We have to think about the elements that we intentionally want to put, that we intentionally want to use to facilitate the comprehension, because we want to reach the comprehension at a glance. We want people to understand the data that we are exposing them at first sight. Then organization and sense of priority. We have a natural preference for symmetrical images, so data organization is important as well. Besides that, we do have a bias of horizontal visualization, so it's easier for us to read things from left to right or right to left instead of up and down. And we can also take that in consideration. We are thinking about the slide composition. Plus, reducing the amount of reducing the amount of data in slides is actually a must. A data scientist, good friend of mine, once told me when we were doing we spent like several nights in a huge report. He told me you don't actually have to include all that information just because we have all that, or just because you did all those breaks. And sometimes we do fall into this trap of believing that all of the 1,000 breaks that we did, all of the 1,000 alternatives, they are important, because sometimes they are not. And of course, we need to look everything case by case, but we often have little time to convey what will really impact decision making. So we have to take this into consideration too. Then didactics and simplicity. You have to simplify things as much as possible. It's not like the Michael Scott from The Office quote, which I love actually. Why don't you explain this to me like I'm 5? No, it's not that. It's actually about making the information a little bit easier to digest, not just visually pleasant, but making it easier to comprehend. So things that may seem obvious for you, who's already familiar with that data, who's already looking to that data for a while, may not seem obvious for someone who's seeing that information for the very first time. And about didactics and about simplicity, we also have to think about the technical terms that we use. This might not be the right time to use all of these difficult words, and because we may distance ourselves from our audience. So are we going to talk about a new and exciting methodology? Well, that's great, but we have to make sure that our audience, but above all, like that all of our stakeholders are in the same page as us. So we may need to explain that. We may need like adding um another slides like explaining how the methodology works and things like this, because we want no mind-boggling after the end of the session. Our goal is, in fact, for people to understand the data clearly and take some action after that. And a story flow and continuity. So don't underestimate the power of using transparency and slides transitions. They can be very useful when you're presenting because they can help you isolate some items, isolate some elements that will help your audience to follow the storyline that you're proposing and focusing on some specific elements when needed, when you wanted to show them. So this can be very interesting to give you some sense of continuity when you're showing this whole story. And according to neurodesign, we tend to forget the information from the previous scene as soon as it finished. So with this static, we may be able to avoid a little bit of this problem. And finally, some examples. I'm going to show you some graphics that I came across from different sources. So some of them, they were found in big syndicated studies from big companies. Others are in live dashboards, others in internal materials. But don't worry, everything has been anonymized and all the real information was replaced with dummy data as well. In these specific examples that I'm going to show you, I will be focusing more on doing minimal tweaks that can help us to have this efficient data storytelling with by not doing much, not changing the whole thing. And just a quick disclaimer, I will discuss more about the look and feel of these examples rather than discussing methodologies or the metrics that they were using in those studies, okay? So let's get to it. This is the first example. We have a simple horizontal bar graph, and we have attributes that were related to a game. And the attributes, first of all, they are not in descending order, so the reading is not that intuitive, and it's not that easily, you cannot like easily compare the attributes, and this is a problem. Besides that, we have the label that goes from 0 to 100. We have several lines, and they are pretty much redundant. So we could suppress them because the percentage over here, they already do a good job alone. Then a redesign will be something like this, because we are making it clearer. We are increasing the spacing between the bar graphs, making it less visually heavy. And we are also highlighting the attributes related to our brand. Because, for example, let's say that our brand should be performing better at attribute number 1 and attribute number 5. And then we can see clearly that number 5 is overperform. It's is below the average performance. So it's easy to understand because just by looking at the graphic, you can understand that you can capture this kind of information. Here we have a donut chart, and we have big numbers and lettering. And here we have a huge problem with colors. They are not being used in an effective way because the part that actually represents the 31% is over here in gray. But when we look in the graphic for the first time, it seems that the blue part is representing the 31% because we are highlighting this part. And besides that, the yellow, they use it below, underneath the graphic, just adds unnecessary complexity because there's no real strategy. There was no purpose on adding this yellow. There was no meaning, so we could also avoid that. Also, the way that the text is split into the screen can make it a little bit less easy to read because we have the text split like this and also the condensed form font that make it a little bit harder for us to understand. So a redesign without changing much would be something like this because we kept the donut hole, we kept the big numbers and the lettering, but you can read it in a way that flows better. Here we have a 5-point scale that they presented as a table. But when we look at it, it looked like a bar chart, like a stocked bar chart. So this is a problem because this simple table, it gives us no idea of distribution. So the 45% seems to have the same importance as the 10% because they seem to have the same size and they don't actually have. Besides that, the color choice do not represent very well the scales point. Because we could do that thing about implicit information with the colors that we discussed before. So using green and red, we could immediately like see if the result leans more towards to a positive or a negative side of the scale. So a redesign will be something like this. And just because it's cleaner, it's easier to understand, we can also add more information too. So we can add the top two box and say like, okay, this is 60% all summed up. Here, this was a study, a segmentation study, not exactly a segmentation study, but it was, they wanted to understand the player base, how the player base was split into generations. And at first, we have these two different graphics. And the first one is part to a whole, so the sum is 100%, and here is also 100%. They were all about single answer questions, but when we look everything just the way it is, it's a bit of a mix. So in these two situations, we could have used other graphics that can make the total sum more evident. We can look at it and see it way easier. And this was actually the first graphic that was presented in the study. So they presented they did an introduction about the 4 subgroups, and they were represented by these colors, but they didn't maintain these colors through the rest of the material. But this actually could be beneficial if they did so, because here we have the same colors, but the labels are different, and we can also play along with that to have a better comprehension. So in this other graphic, one of the things that you see is that it was a yes/no graphic. So we have 3 alternatives that represent yes. So it was something like, oh, do you know what esports is about? And do you watch it? So yes, I know what it is and I watch it. No, I don't know what it is and don't watch it. And it's not like inevitable comparative if you look at it. So it's hard to see like no, it's supposed to be like this first bar over here, but like until you figure it out that Gen Z has more people that know less what esports is about, you take a longer time. So a redesign, it could be something like this. We are using colors, we are using the stocked bar chart to see it a little bit clearer. We separated the yes from the no, and all the reading flows better too. The next one is a bit of a mess. In this other report, they had this slide talking about the favorite device to play. So once again, is a single answer question. Is supposed to sum 100%, but this is a bit all over the place. So since it was a single answer question, once again, we could be using different tactics to make it look like it is actually part to a whole they were presenting. And here's a good example of situations where icons hinder reading more than they actually help, because there's no clear criteria of what they are using. So it's everything on the left, everything on the right. It's a bit all over the place. And unless it's extremely relevant, we can round up the numbers just to make it less polluted. A redesign could be something like this, where we can see like way clear which part of this donut hole each device represents. And also like others had this, let me turn back, has this icon of a star that makes no sense. We can put like other things to represent others because it's already difficult itself to understand. And here I have a table. This is about a brand funnel of game 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. They had awareness, consideration, conversion. Tables, like when we're talking about retention, conversion, they might not be the best to use as well, because with different designs, we can add more visual elements that can gain some space for us and add more information without looking too much, without looking heavy. This is a funny example, but let's suppose our game is the number 1 and we have these other games. It's still a table, but we change it the way that we are exposing, that we are designing this for our audience. So it's a bit more dynamic because imagine that you're looking to a presentation that there's like, okay, horizontal chart, donut hole, and table. Sometimes we still have to use table, but we can change the way that we are using it. And by using the transparency, we can say like, okay, let's focus on our conversion rates and talk about them and blah, blah, blah. But we can also talk about the others, and it won't look too much when you're presenting them separately, all this information separately as well. Finally, this is my last example. They had 2 tables, two different subgroups, so subgroup number 1 and subgroup number 2. And they had these huge 10-point scales with 3 KPIs important for them. And the challenge here is to reduce the amount of information without losing information. So here we can play along with top 2 box and top 3 box. And because the real intention here is to compare the performance of these KPIs between those subgroups. So we can do something like this because we can see the distancing, how it is divided, how close they are to each other, which subgroup performs better. It's just way easier for people to see that. Finally, just to recap about the things that I just said, 5 things that can help you. So once again, colors and contrasts, icons and creativity, organization and sense of priority, didactics and simplicity, and story flow and continuity. That's basically it. So thank you so much for your presence. I hope this content will be useful for you. Just in case you would like to deep dive, I have all the references here. If you'd like to download the presentation, you can scan the QR code. If you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, please feel free. We still have a few minutes left, so I will be more than happy to answer some questions if you have any.
Muito obrigada, Cacao.
Oh, that's adorable.
I'm trying. It was very, I love the examples because you can clearly see, what is bad and how you can make it better. So I love it when it's practical like this. I'm waiting for questions in the Q&A. Do you have questions for Anna or Cacao?
If there's no question, it's not a problem. It's just mean that the presentation was clear enough.
I'm just making sure people have the time to type them in, because it happens in the previous talks. Sometimes they just pop in after 1 or 2 minutes. So since we have a little bit of time, just want to make sure we are allowing people to do this. Yeah, where in the meantime, is there any other resources that you found very insightful to like maybe blogs or where you can try to get some help in data visualization?
Completely. Actually, To be completely honest, I'm deep diving into accessibility into data storytelling now. So I'm still learning about the subject, and we don't have many books about like this specific subject. So I couldn't like even cover this subject here, but I added in the presentation as well some of the blogs that are interesting because they are the real experts, and I'm just trying to get along, just trying to understand. And I think it's something very interesting because not just looking into design and data storytelling, but like accessibility allied to that is really important as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, we have a question from Zach. Are there any tools you like to use for graphs and charts?
Okay, so I'm very suspicious for saying, but my favorite tool is PowerPoint, for real, because they can do like right now I'm without my PowerPoint license, so I'm using Canva, and I was struggling so much because you can you can do so many things in a very like detailed level in PowerPoint. I'm trying to look to other tools, but no, my favorite is still PowerPoint.
Um, so I have another question. It's kind of the same. A tool recommendation for making charts. So PowerPoint, I guess. Um, then I have recommendations for resources for acute visual impairment. So I don't know if you can answer that question right now since you're
Oh,
still looking
sorry,
into it.
I was still reading the chat. Can you repeat, please?
Oh, no, of course. Do you have recommendations for resources for acute visual impairment?
Yes, I can send over in the in the chat because I was actually learning a little bit about colorblind viewers and visually impaired readers when we are doing graphics specifically for them. And some things are just like small tweaks that we can do, like for example, for colorblind, it's more like the color palette that we're going to choose or about the patterns that we're going to use. And for visually impaired readers is more like adding alternative text and all these kind of things. This is also why I think PowerPoint is an excellent tool because you can do that so easily. And I will send all these links here in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to have to stop here. Thank you so much again, Anna, for this wonderful talk.